Guys, we have a very scary and unfortunate true crime story today. Reminder, this video is for informational purposes only, and this is gonna get graphic. Behind me is Abby Choi. She's a Chinese model. According to an article I read yesterday, she was found decapitated with her body parts in a soup pot. By the way, these body parts were cooked, not raw. Her legs were found in a refrigerator. This sounds eerily familiar to Ed Gein. They were suspicious of her ex-husband and they arrested him. The really sus part about him is that he was trying to flee off of a pier. So it is highly likely that her ex-husband did this. Rest in peace to Abby Choi. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below and follow for more scary stories.
Fucking much. I play too fucking much. Okay, let me tell you what happened. So basically, yesterday I was on TikTok, doom scrolling as they call it. I came across this video about this rapper named Big Lurch, right? So he's in jail for life because he ate this girl's kidney. Like, he went cannibal. He overdosed on like some drugs or something and like lost his mind, killed this girl, ripped her chest open, and ate her innards. And then they found him in the streets, covered in blood, screaming to the heavens. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But I had to like get more information on the story. So I started going through a bunch of videos about him and I came across this video of him rapping in jail. I didn't think much of it, but I was like, damn, what the fuck? Why is he rapping? And who posted this? So I commented on the video and I was like, what the fuck? This is why I don't trust humans. Tell me why that's this nigga page. He responded and he responded and then he goes and follows me on Instagram. I play too much. What the fuck? A cannibal?
This is the most chilling picture you will see today, and let me explain why. 18-year-old Samantha Koenig was working at her job in Anchorage, Alaska when she was abducted. Her abductor assured her over and over again that he was only abducting her for ransom. Samantha was waiting for her boyfriend to pick her up from work because she didn't have a vehicle of her own. So this man sent a text message from Samantha's phone to her boyfriend, basically letting him know that she was going away for the weekend and to let her dad know. But Samantha's boyfriend knew that this wasn't like her. And to cause more concern, her boyfriend caught a man going through his truck outside of Samantha's home. The man was searching for Samantha's debit card. Samantha's boyfriend hollered at the man and ran back inside to get help, but by the time he came back out, the man was gone. Weeks go by and Samantha's boyfriend gets another text from her phone. This time it says Connor Park sign under pic of Albert. Ain't she purty? In Anchorage, there's a park called Connor Bog Park, and at the time, there was a poster of a missing dog named Albert. So police show up to this location and they find this. A photo of Samantha holding the Anchorage Daily News and requesting that $30,000 be deposited into her account. While Samantha's father and the community come together to get this money so that Samantha can be returned home safely, they have no idea that in that picture, Samantha is already gone. She had become the victim of serial unaliver Israel Keys, who had sewn her eyes open for proof of life. We talk about this case in full detail on the most recent episode of my podcast, Oddities on Elm Street. It is one of the worst cases I've ever heard. And to make matters worse, before he could disclose all of the information about his victims, Israel Keys unalived himself in prison, but not without leaving behind 11 skulls believed to represent his 11 victims, drawn in his own blood.
How young is the world's youngest serial killer? 20? 18? Even 15? This age reveal at the end of the story will shock you. Amarjit Saddah killed 3 people in separate incidences between 2006 and 2007, including 2 family members. This story takes place in India, and we're going to start in 2007 with a missing baby. A young woman had left her 6-month-old baby in the care of a primary school, and when she had come back, the baby was missing. Now, of course, immediately this baby's family was frantic, and they all began pointing fingers at one individual, Amarjit Saddah. They're quoted as having said they knew he had a dark streak and he was not like the other boys his age. Villagers called the police and said, "You need to speak to this boy." And the police initially dismissed them, saying, "There's no way a boy that young is going to know anything about that missing baby." Ultimately, the police listened to the villagers and tried to speak with Sadah, and his parents were hesitant to let him speak to the police. And the disturbing fact is, the reason the parents were hesitant to let their son speak to the police was because they already knew that the boy had killed his cousin and his baby sister. They didn't bother getting the police involved with that, even knowing what their son had done, because it was a family matter. But eventually, after pressure from the police, Sadah's parents did let him speak to the police. And it was at this point that Amarjeet Sadah admitted to the police what he had done. While in police custody, Amarjeet was very cool, very collected, even asked for a biscuit at one point before telling the police that he had in fact snuck into the daycare where the baby was sleeping, took the baby out of the crib and out into the woods where he brutally beat her with a brick and strangled her. He also admitted to having killed his 8-month-old baby sister in the same fashion, as well as his 6-year-old cousin. The father of this 6-year-old cousin was one of the family members who kept Sadah's crimes under wraps. Family loyalty was obviously a big deal in the Sadah family. But again, with the outcry for this baby infant to be found, they could no longer keep a lid on this, and the monster that this boy was came to light. And the shocking truth is, this boy was only 7 years old. This young boy was a certifiable psychopath. He smiled all through his police interrogation, had zero remorse for what he had done, and had taken a chilling delight in the pain that he caused these children before he ultimately killed them. India does not allow children to be sentenced to death or to even be jailed, and so he was put into a children's home until he turned 18. Sadah was released, and to this day, he is unaccounted for and on the loose. I spent a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas. So in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time in South Texas in women's prisons units, helping people find forgiveness and second chances at life. And on this one particular weekend, when we arrived, the correctional officers informed our team that there was a new inmate on the premises. She was only 17 years old and had been tried and convicted as an adult. I spent 2 days in a Texas prison with one of the most notorious killers in America. And y'all, those 2 days started 10 years of living hell for me. I've shared parts of this story before on TikTok, but I'm going to go into some details that I haven't shared before and the long-term effects that it has had on me. I was working one time with this inmate, and she was 17 years old, had been tried and convicted as an adult. She was in an adult prison for masterminding and participating in the slaughter of her entire family. Her dad was the lone survivor, but unfortunately her mother and 2 younger brothers did not survive the attack. And this weekend, as I'm working with her, I had never met her before and I had not heard her story, and so she was able to take me for a ride, basically telling me the version of the story that she wanted me to hear. And what I didn't know is that she is a psychopath. And she was getting sick pleasure out of toying with me, watching my emotional responses, and just seeing what she could get away with. And I was totally sucked in. I totally was buying everything she was telling me. And I felt pretty safe around her because she was a small, petite person. But the moment that everything in the room changed was whenever she was looking down. She really wasn't even looking at me. She was just kind of looking down and talking real soft like this. And all of a sudden, she just does this. And y'all, when she looked up at me that way, there was a black darkness in her eyes that I have never seen in anybody before, and it scared the shit out of me. I suddenly felt extremely vulnerable, like I was in a predatory environment and I was not safe. I was clearly shaken. I finished my work, got out of there, but I had to come back the next day to work with her for a second day. And this second day that I worked with her, I'm coming into the same prison space that we were working in the day before, and I see her from a distance, and what I saw still shakes me to this day. Now, you're going to think I'm crazy or that I'm one of those religious kooky people that constantly hallucinates like demonic spiritual things. I'm not. I'm not the kind of person who sees things, but this day I saw something. I'm looking at this girl from down a ways, and she looks at me and her face just goes hollow. Her eyes go black and sunken in, almost like I'm looking at a skeletal version of her. And the only thing that I can explain it is that maybe there was something evil around her that almost was standing between me and her, and I was seeing through this thing. And it was a way of me seeing that there is evil around her and that I need to be cautious. But y'all listen, this 2-day weekend with her started 10 years of nightmares, panic attacks, sleep paralysis, seeing shadow figures in my room. To this day, I have had hauntings and unexplained poltergeists in every place I've lived. I'm talking about things being knocked into the floor, things being knocked off of shelves, hearing people crawling around in my living room at night when I'm sleeping in the bedroom above. I wasn't much of a believer in the paranormal before I worked with her, but trust me, it made a believer out of me.